discussions as a work-life balance panel discussion. So basically, when I shared this Google Doc with a lot of you, or a Google form to fill up a related survey about this, that we're going to have this kind of panel discussion, there I had a lot of details about why this is important, what kind of effects, and several studies I cited. So we can go in all those discussions, but this is something not needed now. We all at least can experience it. That's the problem of work-life balance, or facing stress in day-to-day life with our school or professional work or everything, is something we are facing. And at one or the other time, we face this kind of problem, and all of us are, or even we observe people nearby us, around us, that there is something going on which is not exactly what people want. So this is something we do want to know. We always keep asking among ourselves, among to our friends or several places. So today we have a panel here. This panel is not expert in psychology. This panel is not expert in any kind of, well, one panelist is a doctor, but not medicine or anything. But they all are successful in their professional life, in their personal life, in their social life. And they have very good balance of that. So the primary purpose of today's panel discussion is, we have certain questions, we can ask them, we can discuss them, they can put forth their views, and we can relate what we can do at this stage of our life, at early 20s, some of us, some mid-20s, some about 30s. So what kind of things we can do so that in future, if we don't face these kind of problems, or can we do something? That's the another question. Or what can we do? That's the next question. So I will not speak much more on these things. I'll just introduce panelists a bit, and then after that we will move to panelists will speak about on this topic for around 3 to 5 minutes. Then it will be open for questions from audience here, as well as I've got some questions from online survey. I'll pitch in those questions. So let us start with Dr. Chandra Reddy on my extreme right. Dr. Reddy is a medical oncologist and hematologist. After establishing and also practicing at Hope Cancer Research Institute and Paul Cancer Center at Terre Haute, Indiana, he recently retired from active professional practice. He is now fully investing his time in studying religious scriptures, apart from continuing his charitable and philanthropic activities both in India and US. And he has also, coined some innovative way to establish some rural cancer health centers to provide cancer care to the patients directly at their home, which he will elaborate more when he will speak on it. And he served as a president and member in several medical and social organizations, including as president of medical staff at Terre Haute Regional Hospital of Health Corporation of America and American Telugu Association, one of the largest national organization consisting of Telugu-speaking people. Currently, he is managing Hope Center Foundation here in US, and he has also been working with Govt. Of Telangana with the theme of Adopt a Village and Support Your Motherland. He actively participates in VHPA conferences, Geeta Mandals, activities at temple, religious places. He loves to teaching about Sanathana Dharma. And he also loves writing articles, poems, and he's author of a book, TRISAKTAM, an essence of Bhagavad Gita. Presently, he spends his time traveling and visiting different pilgrimage places, and when in US, he lives at Terre Haute with his wife and enjoys time with his 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Next, we have Professor Amit Varma. Professor Varma is a Karl H. Kettelhut Professor of Civil Engineering in Purdue University. He has received numerous recognitions and awards for his contribution to the field of structural engineering in terms of research, teaching, and industrial consulting. Most recently, he received the ASCE Shortridge Hardesty Award for his work on stability of structures. And then today he'll tell us about stability of life. He has also received the AISC Special Achievement Award for his work on design of nuclear structures. Professor Varma was also a student of Swami Tadatmanand from Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, studying Vedanta for several years. He was one of the founding members of the Indian Temple and Cultural Center at West Lafayette, also called as BTCCGL. He was the chair of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, and also the chair of the Temple Committee for several years. He has been conducting Gita classes in the temple for past 5 years and Vedanta classes for the Hindu Yuva students at Purdue for past 3 years. He lives in West Lafayette with his wife, daughters, and mother. Shima auntie is also here. Maintaining a good life and work balance is very important to him, as he states. Next, we have Srimati Meghna Varma. She holds a BE degree in electrical engineering from SVU in India. She was a homemaker for several years before returning to professional life. She is currently a senior data analyst in Purdue University's Sponsored Program Services Department. She received the Bravo Award from Purdue University in the first year after returning to the professional world, and an early promotion in the third year in recognition of her outstanding work and contributions. She lives with her family in West Lafayette along with 2 daughters, one 16 and another 10, and husband, Professor Varma, and mother-in-law. Along with her family, she has made several contributions to the community in West Lafayette. She was one of the founding members of the Indian Temple and Cultural Center in West Lafayette. She was also a member of the Temple Executive Committee and Events Committee at the BTCCGL, or the Indian Temple and Cultural Center. And another panelist, we have Srimati Aparna Srivastava. She is an experienced leader in the pharmaceutical and clinical research industry, and she has held various leadership roles in her career and has traveled extensively for her job. She started out in the IT industry and made a shift to the drug and development, overseeing the clinical development programs of molecules. She's married for over 22 years and has 2 kids. She lives in Indiana from past 2 decades. So this was our panel, and this panel is, as the introduction as it says, that they have very good professional, social, and personal life. And so we will go, as I mentioned, that first each of the panelists will speak, starting from Dr. Reddy, for 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll go for the question answer. So over to the panelists.
Good evening. What a beautiful evening, and the topic is really good. The work balance, work to live or live to work. That is the essence of this evening's panel discussion. To start with, the life is a journey, and like a train journey, and we go one station to the other station after boarding the very first station, and then we don't know where is the destination, but everybody has their own destination. And definitely we know there will be an end for that life journey. So born in a family of the farmers in a small village, and I went usual childhood and adolescence experiences. Still, my father was diagnosed with the lip cancer, which is a treatable and curable but late diagnosis, and he died at the age of 58 when I was in 10th grade. Then that motivated me to go to the medical school, and soon after that, I pursued my career and moved to the Hyderabad, where I did my medical school. And during that time, my mother was diagnosed with the cancer. That motivated me to become the oncologist. And as the stage and another station, then I married a beautiful woman at Hyderabad. And while waiting for the visa here, because and fellowship was not there at the time, so I wanted to do the oncology. So I moved here in 1985. Then went straight to the big cities in New York and Long Island, did my residency as well as the fellowship. And after finishing up that one, and during that fellowship, and during that stations, and there are a lot of things happened. I came with 1 daughter and 1 wife, and then I added 2 more to the family, 1 more daughter and a son. And then after I finished my fellowship, directly to the Terre Haute, Indiana, and you'll be surprised why I chose. And I wanted to have an innovative practice, and I wanted to be on the rural side and farming side. That was my passion. So I started with 1 nurse and 1 secretary, expanded to the 25 members and 3 doctors and 4 clinics within the 20 miles radius. But I did an innovation. Innovation is not only I gave the chemotherapy at the main center, I got the research at the main center, and I took the chemotherapy and the delivery of all the services to the rural area, to their homes. And also not that one, and we considered these families, my family at home, as first family, and second family is the staff at Hope Center, and the third family is my patients and the community members. I have a beautiful interaction with them, and every year we used to give the Christmas party and make them feel that they are in one family. And with that one, during that time, and how did I balance my the life? So during that time, what happened is that a tight balance, because there was a practice, and I have raised 3 kids, of course, with the full-time job from my wife at home, and they became 2 doctors and one businessman. So now, question was that, is it all smooth? Did I balance all this one? How did it go? There is always pleasures and pains. Pleasures are being serving, giving, and also giving the innovation, but the pains, because I experienced a lot of people dying on me, not only my family members, and also some of unusual incidents that happen, as you do it during the journey, and it did happen. And one thing that really happened was not only my parents died with the cancer, all these cancer patients, but one person that was, is my brother's daughter was killed in Terre Haute and murdered by her own husband. And that made me look into this more. Who are they and who am I? And that inclined more into the spiritual, and I've been pursuing in this one for a long time. And during that time, even though there are pleasures of developing all those things and pains I went through, I noted myself, there must be something, what is happening. So we deal with the 3 entities during life. 3 entities. One is the Jiva, that is you, and other one is the Jagat, and the third one is the Jagadishwara. These are the only 2, 3 that we enact during the journey. We do that one. But what are the 5 situations? This happiness that we are to 5 situations is either you have the disease and death, or you have a financial problems, or you have a dilemma in doing either to do or not, and of course, you have the big one, ego. So that's where we will be see how we react to these situations, how we act within these 3 entities. So we'll look forward for that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very difficult one to follow. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for listening, for the ones who are listening to it online or watching the video a little bit later. My name is Amit. I'm a professor here at Purdue, as he said. The organizer asked us to talk for a few minutes about work-life balance. When I shared that with Meghna, she said, "No, you're going to talk, and I'm not going to talk." So there will be a little bit of a balance. I'll try to bring her along so that there's a little bit of a conversation, and she can add as she feels fit. The difficult part, of course, is balance. What exactly is balance, and what is imbalance becomes the question. But then again, the question becomes, what is life? I mean, how many times have we asked? We've all gone through some sort of a journey, getting a bachelor's degree, being in some sort of a hostel, and the favorite question, what is the meaning of life? What is the objective of life? And of course, as people who are working in the technological field, we're very intelligent. And sometimes that intelligence is used as a sword to make a mockery of the question. But perhaps what we want to talk about today is that there is some objectives to life. And there are 4 that have been recognized since the beginning of, I would say, since the beginning of intellectual thought. I'll use some words that there's no appropriate English translations for them, but dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. These are considered as the main 4 purusharthas, the main objectives of human life. And they're general categories, right? I'm sure you can find that some lie at the intersection, some lie at the interface, and there's some overlap. But generally, the objectives of life can be categorized as dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Artha in this one is definitely economics. I'm worried about tomorrow. Kama, I do want to have some pleasure today. I'm worried about today. And then dharma, I'm worried about the next life, perhaps a little bit later. I want to do the right actions so that I'm earning some potential to secure my future. Again, a little bit of artha. And then moksha, which will be very difficult to start talking about now. We do talk about it a little bit, but we'll come back to it. I think it'll be a topic that will emerge automatically as we go through this conversation. 4 purusharthas, 4 objectives of life. Striking a balance between the 4. Yeah, that's what we're talking about in terms of life-work balance. It's called work-life balance. I'll put it differently. I'll call it life-work balance. Because if these 4 are the purusharthas that we are interested in, then where does the imbalance come from? I'm going to translate work. I'm going to translate it into karma. How can karma cause imbalance, right? Because we all understood that karma is very important. Even the Gita says, you do your karma and don't worry about the results, right? So karma is pradhana in so many ways in our culture, in our philosophy, and so on. So how does karma fit into these 4 purusharthas? You've got dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Where does karma fit into all this? Well, there's another word that I'm going to add to it, karma yoga. There is a difference between karma and there is a difference between karma yoga. And between them is the work-life balance. When you're too much on the side of work, karma, without karma yoga, you're in a situation of imbalance. And we can explore that a little bit as we talk. And I guess that's good in terms of an explanation, or at least what we think about, what I think about work-life balance. I'll request next one to talk about.
Hi everyone, my name is Meghna. After graduation, I immediately got a job in the campus placement. So I was working before I got married, and after about a year, I got married and came to this country. So my life was at a crossroad. I had to decide whether I wanted to continue my studies and work, or whether I wanted to devote my time to the family. And it was a tough choice. I mean, no doubt about it, because you are young and you've just started your career. With that comes the independence, the financial independence, and it was a difficult decision. But we both talked about it, and I decided to go with the family route. I decided that I needed to spend more time with him, with my family, and it was also a new country for me. So I was a homemaker for about 13 years before I decided to go back into the career path. And it was not easy because, I mean, first of all, I would like to say this. A lot of people have a misconception that the life of a homemaker is really easy. It's not. It's not. So when I started working, maintaining the work-life balance was, it was a big thing. That's why this topic was so relevant, and I really like the topic. And I'm glad that people are actually thinking about this. It was not easy, but there are certain things that I learned from managing my work along with the family life, and I would like to share that with you. First of all, ever since we grow up, we're always taught to be modest, and you want to let your work speak for yourself. But it's extremely important to appreciate what you bring to the table and what you do for your family and the work. It's very important to pick your battles. You have to understand that you're not a superhuman. There will be good days and there will be bad days, and you just have to pick your battles and go with it. Another thing is, and I know I'll sound like a broken record, and I think it comes from being a parent, but there's a lot of peer pressure. There's a lot of pressure because of social media these days. You see all these people accomplishing these big things and doing this and that for their family and at their work and in social life. And you just have to know yourself. You just have to know your capabilities, your limitations, and you have to understand that you are doing your best and there's no point in comparing yourself to the others. So that's, the other thing that's really important is getting support from your spouse. You have to understand, whether you've been at home and you're joining work after a long time, or whether you're working and just got into a relationship or got married. Both the situations, will become difficult initially, but if you have support from your spouse, if you have a good understanding, then it'll work out. So it's not undoable. It's very much doable, and you should just have fun. So that's all that I want to say.
Aparna.
Thank you, Geeta.
Sorry, my spiritual knowledge is not very sound like that, so I'm just giving a practical part of it.
Absolutely. No, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for making it today. It's the long weekend, and to have you in this room, just shows the interest and the commitment that you all have. So hats off for that. And I'm just humbled to be sharing a table with these great people, and also to be in the room with such focused youth. I can't say the same for myself when I was in my early 20s. So hats off to you. So I know Akshay ji is waiting and timing us, so I'll come to the topic. So what I would like to talk to you all about, is the impact of the choices that you make in your life and how that impacts your work-life balance. What we prioritize in life and how we do that, how effective we are, how efficient we are in doing our day-to-day tasks, that plays a big role. And as in the invite, you saw all these links: how to manage your stress, how to manage, your daily activities, calendaring, stuff like that. There are a lot of tools out there for you to leverage. What I want to focus on in the few minutes that I have is how we prioritize what is important to us and how it impacts our lives. So I'll give you a small example from my life, from my personal experience. Many years ago, when I was planning my career, I had a mentor, and we were in one of our career planning sessions, and she was talking about what roles are good for me, what roles I should start pursuing within the organization. And when we were doing that exercise, she asked me, what are the ages of your children? And I was like, what does that have to do with the roles that I'm going to be taking in the next couple of years? I'm focused. I want those roles. I want to climb the ladder. And she said, no, it will affect what kind of roles you take. And at that time, I didn't understand. I'm like, okay, these are the ages of my kids. And then after a few years, it dawned on me. My daughter now is a junior in Ohio State, but when she was around 10, 11 years old, I just had this feeling that, time was passing by so quickly, and I wanted to just grab hold of, my children were growing up too fast, and I had this whole sense of, I want to slow things down. I want to be spending more time with them. And then it was a tough decision. After a lot of conversations with my husband, I made a decision to let go of my career. I made a decision. I still wanted to work. I'm a way better mom when I work. But I took a job working from home. It was completely different. I come from an IT background. I went into clinical research, and working from home, that was a challenge by itself. The decision was very easy. The implementation of that decision was quite challenging. So, it's not a rosy picture, but at least, what it did bring to my family and myself was a sense of calm, was a sense of contentment, which, I think that was what I was going for. And I surprised myself with this job that I took from home. I excelled in it. I started climbing the ladder with that job, in that company. I switched companies. I started climbing the corporate ladder, even with that job. So for all of you young folks here in the room, what I would like to let you know is it's okay. You're on this freeway, you're going at whatever the speed limit is, maybe 80, 75. There might be a by road, and you might want to take it. Go ahead and take it. You can always come back. And I think the point I want you to take away from this is something that another mentor of mine mentioned to me, is the concept, the analogy of crystal balls and bouncy balls. Crystal balls, when you drop it, it's broken. You can't put it back together. It's gone. A bouncy ball, you drop it, it'll bounce right back. So if there's something that you can take away, with the few minutes that I've spoken, is learn to understand what's the crystal ball in your life. What is the bouncy ball? In mine, that crystal ball was taking that time off then. I can do it now, but my kids are grown up. It wouldn't have mattered. But for me at that time, it was my crystal ball. The bouncy ball happened to be my career, and it bounced right back up, And so for all of you, I would, encourage you to kind of understand that and apply it in your day-to-day, even with your assignments, with what projects you choose, what family commitments you have. You might have parents right now, you're all young, and then it'll move to a partner, a spouse, children. If you can kind of understand that concept, that will definitely help you in life. So again, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you everyone for the introduction on the topic or putting your points briefly on it. Now we'll move ahead and start taking questions from the audience one by one. You can ask any question related to the topic, and be aware that everything is being recorded and being live casted on YouTube. So if there is something you don't want to get recorded, try to put it in the other way. And I also have some questions which I'll interleave with audience questions. So anyone from the audience want to start with a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Princeton from Ohio State. So I think one of the hardest things with work-life balance is making that judgment of when you're actually too stressed or when you're actually not trying too hard. There's that delicate balance of being able to push yourself and being able to hold yourself back. So as a college student, that's a difficult balance for me because I want to have a good career for myself. So I want to push myself to be at the best position possible. I want to apply to medical schools, and they expect a lot out of their students. So I want to be in the best position possible. But at the same time, I have to worry about my, mental health and my physical health as well. But as a person, you don't really have something to compare to. You can hear stories about others, but you can never really get inside another person's head and have the same judgment, right? So what kind of standard as a person should you compare where your equilibrium is and where you should keep it?
Time to go. Do you want to address that?
See, first of all, what is stress? And we need to know what is the cause for the stress. Cause for the stress, you know better than anybody else. And then even if you ask somebody else, they're not going to tell the same situation and same stress, right? Usually stress comes because of either pravruti or nivruti. Pravruti is in getting something. You have a desire to become a doctor. You desire to become something. And then that is your desire. And then suppose there is an obstruction on that one. Then there will be a automatic stress will be developing on that one, due to whatever the reasons on that one. And then the other one is you want to get rid of certain things that is obstructing your goal. And then automatically you'll get those anger, then when you add that desire, D, to the anger, it becomes the danger. So you have to be very precise on that one, no matter what gurus, what companion, or any other persons can give you the advice. It is you, because we can give everything to you, but you need to analyze what is the root cause for that stress. Then you eliminate that one. Then automatically you go smoothly on that. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add to that. I think a couple of weeks ago, Swami Sarvapriyananda was here, and I heard him speak at the Hindu temple, and he might have mentioned it to you guys. He mentioned the book Flow. I forget the author's name, DRT, but he talks about the skill versus challenge, and that when the skill is less and the challenge is more, then it generates stress, and likewise. And when you get into that equilibrium, the flow generates. I've just ordered it from Amazon. It's on my reading list right now, but it's something to look into too. But I hear you, and it's always the same in the workplace as well. When you're taking on a huge challenge, it's just how much am I putting in? Is it enough? And something to look in is how can you empower your skill set? What's your toolbox? And what you can do with it. Yeah.
I'd like to add a little bit. Yeah. So it's an interesting question. How do I know that I am stressed? I can't. I struggle with it. I have a OCD personality. It's better for me to not get obsessed with something, because if I get obsessed with something, then I'll just go spend all my living time, all my waking time, and I'll take a lot of time from my sleep and I'll dedicate it towards it. I can't tell. I get too obsessed with what I want to do. It's a good thing and a bad thing, as you said. So how am I supposed to? I can't look in the mirror and tell you that I'm stressed. What I found works really well is that the person sitting next to me, over there, my mom, or the person sitting next to me here will tell me, "Bodoga, you have crossed the limits and you've gone into a world where you are really stressing yourself out." I find it very helpful for these kind of situations to have someone who knows you a little, knows you in the sense that they know what your desires are, where do you want to go, and why you're working so hard to get there. And as part of that support network, they'll tell you, yeah, you've crossed the line. And what will happen when you're very stressed out is that you will actually cross the line with them. You will come to a point where you will say something, do something, you will get, your behavior will be, it'll degrade to a point where they'll tell you, hey, you know what's going on here? You're getting really stressed because you've encountered a limit of how much you can do versus how you can approach it. So it's a really good idea to have people around you who care for you and who love you, and they'll tell you. It's as simple as that for me, because I couldn't look in the mirror and say that I had crossed my line. I need somebody else to tell me I crossed the line. It's very difficult when it happens in the workplace. It's very difficult when you blow the gasket somewhere where you can't take it back. There are some relationships where you can take it back, some you can't. And it's really good to have someone who knows you, with you, to tell you.
Thank you.
Very good. So okay, I'll take one as a question which was given online. And the questions which came online, I've clubbed them into categories. So this is like merged, this has been come from several people. But the idea is, reading one of the questions, people often allow work to take over everything else because it is easy and provides tangible gains in the form of recognition and success in the workspace. How can they justify then or incentivize themselves to look into other aspects as well? Then another related question which highlights a little bit clarity on this is how to leave other people's opinions aside. So all the online questions are anonymous, so we don't know who asked.
Yeah, I think again this brings us to the question of peer pressure when you find people around you accomplishing so much, and I mean it does create stress, but again it's the balance of you have to pick your battles. You have to decide for yourself what's important to you and what's not important to you. Like Aparna said, to prioritize what's really important for you. And yes, it's true that it's very easy for us to say, okay, I'm really busy at work and I have this deadline and that submission due. But sometimes it can also be an escape from other factors of life. So you just have to, I mean, you look at the people around you, like you said, look at your support network, look at your family, and I mean, really, you just have to decide for yourself that, okay, this is not working out. I'm bringing too much of the work into home, because eventually it will affect your family life. It will affect the way you socialize with friends or the way you mingle in your community, and you just have to find that equilibrium and deal with it. So,
In the karma, the work. The karma is the essential part of all those four margas. Either jnana, bhakti, or raja yoga, karma yoga. Karma is the essential part of that one. In order to do the karma, you need all other three components. And then usually when we are young and energetic and our mind is going, all the ways, and too many at hand, and it's very difficult to, know what is best for you, and then how do you do that, So it is like during that young minds, what happens is it's like that to get that knowledge. How do you perform that karma to get the recognition and to get the name and fame and money or whatever that you are looking for that? That knowledge is really a secret. It is called in the our Gitas. It's a Raja Vidya and the Raja Gurya. Knowledge, and that is that is called ignorance on that. So what do you need for that? To need to see that cat in the dark room is you need to have an eye that can see, and you need a torchlight, and you need to have that cat in that room. So all these things is you. You cannot compare. Your equipment is your own equipment. I think that is what to perform the karma. You need all these three components. So you need to get those knowledge in order to see the recognition and all those things on that. I think that avoids a lot of stress. When you have the knowledge, there is no stress. That knowledge you can apply into the karma, whatever you're doing. That's my opinion.
I want to address the question about how to leave others' opinions aside. That's a tough one, a very difficult one. Especially, there are sometimes opinions that we value a lot, and sometimes there are opinions that we actually don't value, but they affect us more. My experience has been that there are people that I actually don't care for what they think, but I do. And when I'm alone, I'll find that I actually do. How do you leave? It's first of all, it's not easy. It's very difficult to leave others' opinions aside. But what can help is to understand that we have to accommodate their worldview. What that means is that their opinion is actually a reflection of their life experiences cast in your mold. They're judging you not based, they don't know you. They actually don't know your life experience, but they know theirs. So when they have an opinion about you, it actually says more about themselves rather than you. And that accommodation, that ability to give yourself that space to say, yes, this person has a certain opinion about you. And that's okay, because their opinion is formed by their own life experiences, not what I'm actually going through. And they can't come live inside my head. They're not welcome. Neither do I wish to live in their head. But it's okay for them to have their opinion, and it's okay in its place. Is it easy to leave it aside? Not quite. You'll have good days, and you'll have bad days. And I've always said this, I allow myself to have some bad days. There'll be bad days when you'll be really affected by it, and there'll be good days when you'll be able to make this distinction and say, you know what, their opinions about me are actually a reflection on themselves rather than me. And on those good days, you'll be able to set them aside. There'll be others where it'll control you from your subconscious. And that's okay. There'll be bad days. It's okay to have a bad day.
So, next question from audience, if anyone wants to ask.
Hi, my name is Anshul. So I'm a second year PhD student. So I don't think I have, it's a problem for me as of now, like work-life balance. So my schedule is quite flexible. I can choose not to work on weekdays. I can choose to work on weekends. But I'm kind of curious, like how the future life is going to be after 5 to 6 years. I'm going to be married, and then so these days you have husband and wife both working, and then that's where the struggle is going to be. Like how you balance your family. So as of now, I don't have family here, so I have, in a sense, not much responsibility. So can you just put some light, since you're so experienced, guys? Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, kesara, whatever will be, but, yes, definitely. You're single now, like I said, a partner or spouse and kids. I think it comes from understanding, and being empathetic to your partner, and having an honest discussion. That's what got us through, because we both want careers. There's ego involved. I think one of the things that I can at least from my perspective, what really helped us is putting our egos aside and seeing what is good for our family ecosystem, between, whether it's your spouse, when kids are involved, aged parents, we have a lot of responsibilities, and being able to be honest to yourself and understanding, and it's also opportunities. Maybe your spouse might get an opportunity to climb up faster, and then, maybe that's okay for you then to do, to help out, or vice versa. It's not gender specific at all, but, to be able to have that honest discussion, to be able to be empathetic, and to kind of understand and take all these factors in. It is challenging, but it can be done.
Yeah, like communication is the biggest key to this. You have to be absolutely clear, and I mean, it requires the support from both the spouses. It's unfair to expect support only from one person. Like you said, it's not gender specific at all. So yeah, I mean, you just need to communicate very well. What needs to be done, and once you have kids, obviously the responsibilities will increase, and it does put a lot of pressure. But I can assure you that those little cheerleaders, you wouldn't want to trade it for anything else. I mean, after a stressful work day, when you find those people cheering for you, I mean, it just makes everything so much easier. So, yeah, anything else?
So you want to get married, right?
That's all we took from this question.
So I understand that. I think it's not a question of married life or unmarried life, or in a bachelor life, whatever you call it. See, I briefly mentioned that we all look for happiness. That's the nature, and we are ourselves are the Ananda. We are the Sat Chit Ananda. But we ourselves happiness. We look forward for the happiness outside. That known, our Shastra says that one. What are the things that disturb these five, happiness? 5 situations. Number one, the common thing is disease and death. That's the common thing, because the minute we are born, we know that we are going to die one day, right? Disease and death. Number 2 is the disturbances in relationship, whether it's your brothers, friends, and and a wife or anybody. The third one is the financial problems, and the fourth one is dilemma in doing the things, whether to do or not to do. And the fifth one is the biggest one, common, 99% in everybody, is the ego. And that ego is the biggest thing that causes that. Now, if somebody wants to get married or remain unmarried, this work balance is not going to make a difference. So we need to relate how we react to these 5 situations, how you plan for that, how you execute that one. That's the most important thing. Are you ready for the marriage to support your wife? Are you ready for all these 5 situations that come up? How you adjust yourself with your would-be spouse? All these things you have to have a planning, and then you execute on that plan. And that is the only way that you can foresee, how, because you are prepared for that situation. So all life is about how you react. The happiness depends upon how you react.
Yeah, I want to point out at the beginning of your question, you said something very interesting. You said, I'm a PhD student. Clearly, your advisor is not here because you said you have some free time. As a PhD advisor, I must say that was very surprising. Anyways, it was interesting, the opening part of your question, because if I dial you back 5 years to when you were a bachelor student, maybe beginning your first degree, and I would have asked that person, hey, what will your life be like a PhD when you are doing a PhD? That person would be so stressed out about it. They would say, oh, I have no idea. What kind of research am I going to do? What kind of lab I'm going to end up in? That person would be extremely stressed. I dial now 5 years forward, and here you are, and you say, it's okay, I can deal with this. So what changed in those 5 years? Life is a process of growth. And we seem to grow without us noticing. And we are able to accommodate more and more as we go forward. This process of growth is very important. And you will grow. Every relationship you have, every family member you add, the growth is exponential. I cannot explain to you how much that growth will allow your personality to expand and accommodate those people. So don't worry. You figured it out. You figured it out so far. And the process of growth is natural to a certain extent, as long as you let it change you. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago. Something changed. You allowed yourself to grow into this researcher. Similarly, when you allow yourself to grow, and you work with your spouses, you'll be okay.
So, another question, online question.
Can you speak a little louder?
Okay, another online question. This actually a little bit relates with something which came in these answers here. That how to prioritize our to-do list, keeping in mind both work and life. Then some related questions. There are many related, but I'll just put two others. Will just time management solve the issue? How to make sure we have some time for ourselves, family, or even just self. I don't know what that means. Yeah, or even just self.
Yeah. I mean, I would, I saw that question and I would bring it back to, your choice. What's the crystal ball? What's that bouncy ball? What is most important for you, and help you make that decision. Time management is not just time management. If you've mastered that, it's still, it goes back to some of the choices that you make and what you prioritize in your life, and being able to, dedicate that time and effort towards that.
Yeah, I think in my personal experiences, time is one of the things which does not wait for anybody. Those 5 entities that we have, only thing in our hands is the karma. You have that, whatever the unknown intelligence, and then you as an individual jiva, and the third one is the prakriti, whatever you have, and the fourth one is the time, and the fifth one is the karma. Now, in my personal experience is that during my busy practice, I was putting 20 hours almost in the 24 hours. Now, one day my daughter was arguing with my wife, and she was using a little bit of the words that are not palatable. And when I asked him why you are fighting and why do you say things to your mom like this, then she said, "Why do you care? You've never been home." And that is the beginning of my practice. So the time management, what I did, that opened my eyes. Immediately I adjusted the time. No matter what it is, those hours that we, spend with the kids, you come home, and whatever the balance work, in order to see the rest of the patients, I come home, spend the time, and then go back later and do the rounds, when they were, sleeping. So that is, the time is in your hand. How you manage is, and the priorities, as somebody mentioned, the priorities are more important. And each individual is different. In the time management for each profession, each individual is different. So I think it is in your hands how you utilize your time and prioritize on those things. And then that way you can lessen the stress, and you have a good balance between the professional and personal life.
I would like to add to this. Again, in this kind of situation, having a good understanding with your spouse is extremely important, because there are times when, how much ever you want to manage your time, but some things just come up, whether it's at work or it's with the kids, or it's something to do with the community. Sometimes 10 things happen at the same time, and there's just not enough time for all the things. So in such cases, it's very important for your partner to understand what you are going through, and then just take over more of the other work. So again, I mean, time management is one thing, but you also need to have a good equation with your partner to get through this.
I'll throw out an interesting anecdote. Those of you who know me, and some of you do, that I like watching Star Trek. There's a Star Trek number 5 in which Captain Kirk, he's old by that time, gets off the ship, and Mr. Sulu, who's also old at that time, gets off the ship, and Sulu's family comes to see him, his grandson and so on. So Captain Kirk asks him, "When did you find the time to have a family?" And Sulu says to him, "What do you mean, Captain? You always told me, you always make time for the things that you love. Captain Kirk goes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's an interesting anecdote because it points out when we say, how do I prioritize? I'll tell you, you've already prioritized. Every minute of your life is already prioritized. You've already prioritized the things that you love to do. Just look at your browser history. It tells you what you like to do. If you show me your browser history for the past 1 week, I can tell you exactly what you've prioritized your life to do. We've already made the choice. Now, if you're talking about changing what those priorities are, you can do that. All you have to do is find what you love, because you'll always make the time for the things that you love to do. So it becomes important to know, what is it that you love to do? I can't answer that. You need to answer that. And you'll always make time for the things that you love. And if you find that you're not having time for the things that you love, you got to change your priorities.
Just to quickly add to that one, time doesn't have past, present, and future. Time has only present. You know, I give you a quick example. Is that a time, as somebody said, that past is a cancelled check, future is a promissory note, present is the cash in your hands. The minute you are taking an action or creating time to do something, that if you don't take it as per the priorities, that goes into the past. And then if you don't do it now, that you postpone to the future, it gives you. So the future gives the anxiety, and the past, which you did not do it, it will give you guilt. And when you have the guilt in behind you and the anxiety, and that brings you stress. So always live in the present. Do it now, because next minute is going to be present, present is going to be past. That's what you have to do. That's my personal experience.
From the audience.
Hi, my name is Adhiraj. I am a final year undergrad student at Purdue. And so my question to you is, any of you can answer it. Can you describe how your day is and how you maintain work-life balance in your day-to-day life?
That's a tough question, right? Preaching is different than practicing, right?
And you're all actually in varying parts of your stage of life. So actually, it's a very good question. One is on Vanapasti. So
yes. I think if you just to, can I?
Please.
Our Shastras clearly given, this is age war, years, millions of years. The Shastras given that beautiful, as Sir said, that it was Purusharthas, that's the goals. The minute you are born as a human being, you have the already goals, the 4 goals. And that's what it's meant for, only for human beings. Only Artha Kama is for every creature, but 4 of them, the first one, Dharma and Moksha, is only for human beings on that. But in order to achieve these 4 Purusharthas, you need to have a Varnashram Dharma. That has been there. It has been misused now, but Varna is your, the, what do you call, the character or your attitude, whatever that is. Ashrama is the stage of that. You all know that, you have that first 25 years is the Brahmacharya, second 25 years is Grihastha, third one is the Vanaprastha, fourth one is Sannyasa. These 4 stages and 4 stations are there. Then in that one, how do you live your life on that? Or you have a predominant, Brahmacharya when you have that one. And then in the case of the Grihastha, what kind of personality you have. So that gives you that one, all these 4 Varnas is, what are those 4 Varnas? You have those Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, and Shudras. These are not by the birth. These are by your a combination of those 3 gunas, which is Sattvic and Rajasic and Tamasic. And then you all know that what are those, each one has its definite, kind of characters. This has been told on those things. So in that situation, once you have this Varnashrama Dharma is there, and it's very easy to know your own, what is your personality and what stage you are in. Then, in the present world, in the USA, there are about 30%, 40% depressed because they are not following their Swadharma, they are trying to follow the others' Dharma. And then in Bhagavad Gita says that it is better to do your own dharma imperfectly than trying to do the dharma, somebody's dharma perfectly. You know that a butcher may be doing what you call a perfect cutting on that one, but I don't want him to do my surgery on me, right? So that's why we have to follow our own, whatever the innate nature we have, and the nurture that comes on that one, you apply that one, and then you go for the stage with. You don't want to rush on the things. You don't get drug addicted because comparison and pressure, peer pressure, and all those things. You know yourself, what is your personality, what is your nature, innate nature, and then you learn from the nurture, whatever the surrounding. That's my opinion.
That's a very difficult question, day-to-day life, because you're asking me for secrets. Secrets from my life, I'll tell you. So, I don't have a set bedtime. That's the biggest one, right? So, my mom is here, so I can't lie. She knows. I try not to stay up past 2 a.m. I draw the line there. Although it gets past that some nights. Waking up, I try to have at least 6 hours of sleep. 6 hours of sleep, I'm fine now. There was a time when I could do with a lot less. 5 hours of sleep, I'll be irritated through the day. And the way I deal with it is after 4 p.m. I start making really bad jokes. So my students will tell me, "Did you get only 5 hours of sleep last night?" And they'll know. They've worked with me for so long. They'll know. I try to keep at least 5 to 6. Today I had 7, long weekend, so it was exciting. There are rigid parts to my day-to-day schedule that I can't compromise. I have to be in the classroom at a certain time. There is really no flexibility on that. And I have to plan for that. I have to make sure that I do a very good job when I'm in the classroom. There are some meetings that I have with students that are really mature. They're finishing up their work. I can't compromise on. I can always shift the meeting a little bit, but I have to make sure that I meet with them so that they can conclude or make proper conclusions from their studies and so on. And then there are meetings with project sponsors and so on that I just can't move around. It's very difficult to do. But other than those, I like to keep flexibility in my schedule because we're not the most organized people. I know that at some point in time in the day, WhatsApp saves my life. So I'll get a text from her saying, "Hey, today is this recital, we have to go." Then I'll of course write back and say, "Do I have to really go?" And then she'll say, "Yes, you have to go." Okay, well, fine, I'll make if it is not conflicting with any of the difficult parts, then we'll definitely accommodate it. There are other things that can come up. So you've got to have a flexible part of your schedule. And things can happen, difficult things can happen, injuries can happen, accidents can happen. And you've got to be having some time, you're going to be able to drop everything when that happens. So in order to maintain a good work-life balance, you've got to have good communication within your family structure. If someone needs something, they should be completely free to tell you that I need this thing today. And given the constraints of your work life, you should be able to drop certain things. And as you get older, I'm at a different stage in my life. I can drop a lot more now. There was fewer things I could drop when I'm beginning off my career. But then the other demands are also not. So it's a part of where you keep flexibility. So how do I maintain work-life balance? The answer to that is less sleep, more flexibility, and making sure that I'm watching out for all those texts that come throughout the day to me from my close ones saying, I need this needs to be done, this needs to be dealt with today, and so on.
Luckily for me, it's a set 8 to 5 job. So once I get back home at around 5:30, 5:45, then it's family time. So since I have 2 kids, one is 16, the other one is 10. I mean, there are lots of things that need to be done. There's a lot of chauffeuring that needs to be done. People have to go here, there, and then they need to be picked up. But apart from that, one thing that's really important to me is finding time for myself. I mean, if there's something that I love to do, like a show that I love to watch, or a movie that I love to see, or anything that I like doing for myself, I think it's extremely important for everyone to keep a certain part of the day for that. For me, it's the end of the day. I mean, right before going to sleep. There was a time when I used to read, not anymore. But I think it's very important to keep a small part of the day to yourself, where nobody bothers you and nobody tells you what to do or what to watch or what to read, and you just do your own thing, and that will keep you motivated to just go on with the next day.
And a small part to watch something fun with the spouse, so that you share a sense of humor as well.
Yeah,
Plugging into that one, I, as a medical carrier for last 25 years on that one, I divided the time into 3 parts. There are 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, right? That usually notice that one, the very sattvic hours are 4 to 8 in the morning. Then your 8 to 4 is your working hours. And then 4 to again 8 is usually another 4 hours is for the spent with your family, quality time on that one. And so morning 4 hours is with you, and the evening 4 hours are there, and 8 hours, average 8 hours is the ideal time to get on that. Again, I plug that one is a Varna Dharma. It depends upon where you are, what your innate nature and how the surroundings nurture is there. You're flexible with those times according to your own profession and your own gunas.
Do we have time? That's fine. Just a quick thing, because you asked us about how we manage. One thing that I've noticed, I think when we are younger, we tend to procrastinate a lot. I'll get there. And then what happens is, and I see that in my daughter, and I'm seeing it slowly with my son as well, is when you get to that time, you have all these ideas, but now you're rushed. You have to get that assignment done, and those awesome ideas that you had, now you're like, I'm just going to get through. So one thing is, don't try and procrastinate. When you have the time, get it done, because you never know. Like he mentioned, something might come up and you might not be feeling well or something, and so that's number one. Number two, something that I've learned myself. First, I used to put these amazing. I would get all kinds of stationery because I work from home. I had to keep a colorful desk, and I would make these long lists of tasks that I would want to do, and I would not accomplish even half of them, and I would be very disappointed by the end of the day. So now, I focus myself to, even if there's a long list, I pick 2 that says, if I've got these 2 done, it's been a good day. And believe me, when you get into some of this crunch time, if you can get that 1-2 things done, it's a good day. And another thing that I would advocate for is think time, blank time, calendar space. I know with students, I don't know how this works now, but especially for us in the working week, I need something time. If I'm in back-to-back meetings, sometimes I start my calls at 4 a.m. I'm either with China or one of the. It's just very hard, because you go back to back, and you've not been thinking. You've just been addressing issues. And so I block my calendar for an hour. It's just my time to think. So there you go.
Okay. This will be the last question, and then after that we'll proceed for dinner. So there, maybe if someone has questions, we can catch hold of the panelists, and others. People can continue discussing. But there's a question coming from. So it's not directly related to work-life balance, but probably the problem of work-life balance comes up because of this thing. The thing is how to find a passion. Like, what is a passion? Is it important to follow your passion? So then there are related questions, but the idea goes about it.
That's so tough. What is a passion? It's an open-ended question. Yeah, I think it's going to be the thing that you love to do the most. If you haven't discovered, I guess, yeah, we should address that. If you feel that, and this happens, where you feel that I'm not passionate about anything. I like a lot of stuff. I like to do it, but I'm not really passionate about anything. Nothing gets me quite as excited. But I have news for you. That's absolutely okay. There's nothing wrong with not being passionate about something. Life is a process of growth. And while you may not have discovered your passion, things that make you really excited yet, you'll discover them a little bit later. giving yourself that space. I think more, what worries people more is that I don't have one. Everybody has a passion and I don't have one. And so the bigger thing that bothers them is, well, how come I don't have it? There must be something wrong with me. I don't have a passion. And what I'm trying to tell you is, no, don't worry. If you don't have one, you haven't discovered one yet. It's okay. Life is a long process of growth. People find their passion at different times in life. Did you know when Mahatma Gandhi came to India? When did he actually?
1921.
How old was he when he came to India?
I think he was 47.
He was not a young person when he came, and became quite passionate about the freedom movement. And at the same time, you all know what age Bhagat Singh was when he was sentenced to death.
21.
People find their passion at different points in time. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to go through life. And I think the bigger problem from the person, from what I understand from the question, it's not so much as what is a passion, or it's really, I don't have one. So is there something wrong with me? And the answer to that is no. It's absolutely fine. You'll find something that really, really gets you going. Something that allows you to say, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and I'm going to go to this because I really want to get this done. And it's okay if you never find it. It's not the end of the world.
The passion is, if you translate that, is the passion is your goal or hobby or desire or raga or moha, whatever it is there, is that the passion in the human life has to be. It's a very rare. We are being born as human beings is the boon. The passion should be in every human body, human life is moksha. Because there is no pleasure outside, you are the pleasure, and your moksha is the goal. Your passion has to be goal. That could be anywhere in the form of your desired service, in charity, or getting independence, or fighting for a good cause to help the majority. But ultimately, that moksha is the passion of the human being. That's it.
Okay, so with this, would like to thank all the panelists to come and share their ideas about the topic. Thank you everyone for participating in this panel discussion. Thanks to everyone who are watching these videos. Thanks to all the anonymous question askers. And thank you everyone. This was a great discussion. We want to have more such discussions, so I would welcome your suggestions, your feedback on this during the dinner. What else you would like to see on similar discussion? What else we can do on the similar topic? And I would also want to have feedback from panelists, definitely. Thank you everyone for this. We'll proceed to dinner in the room next. So, Professor Varma, I would request Professor Varma to do Bhojan Mantra.
Oh,
and then we'll
I
proceed.
mess it up usually, so I'll request Shivram to help me with it, please.